So you've saved and you've saved and you saved, and you think you found that perfect piece of land to buy, either to build your dream house or to use as a recreational property. And either way, there's nothing like owning your own piece of land. Congratulations. But there are lots of questions that you need to ask before you close on that piece of land. Here are the top 6 questions you need to ask when purchasing. So the first thing to consider is whether the property has a current survey plat. A survey plat outlines the boundaries of the property so you know exactly what you're purchasing. It also shows you how much acreage you're buying. It's a roadmap for your property that is invaluable. It helps you avoid any future land disputes with your neighbors and lets you know exactly what your land's dimensions are. Other features commonly shown on plats include easements, waterways, setbacks, building locations, and the names of surrounding owners. It will generally show you all the utilities on the property, and also if you don't have access to city sewer, it can show you where any approved septic sites are. Never underestimate the power of having a current plat. And if your seller doesn't have one, you may be able to negotiate it in the contract. Just be aware it could add several weeks to your purchase timeline to get it done, whether it's being paid for by you or the seller. The next important factor is how much road frontage does your property have? Road frontage simply refers to the length of the boundary of the property that is adjacent to a road. Adequate road frontage is essential for convenience, accessibility, and for the potential for future development. Also, many utilities are run along the sides of public roads, and so when it comes time to build, you will have easier access to those utilities. Some counties and municipalities require a minimum amount of road frontage before you can build. You may have 50 acres, but if you only have the minimum required road frontage for one home, you may not be able to divide it easily. Again, check with your local governing agency to make sure you can do what you want to do with your road frontage. Next, you want to investigate if there are any easements on the property, and this is very important. Easements grant specific rights to other individuals and organizations to access or use your property in some way. Current plats should show easements, but also a title search will reveal if there are any easements on your property. Common easements are utility easements for electricity and water and maybe even gas. Most properties already have these types of easements if there's a house existing, because this gives access to the utilities to repair any lines. Another type of easement is the ingress and egress easement. That basically means in and out. That generally gives someone else the right to come in and out across your property to access theirs. Ingress and egress easements also can limit what you can do on your property in certain areas. For instance, if someone uses your driveway to access their property behind yours, you cannot gate it and you cannot block it unless you give them gate codes. Also, you can't put a structure where an ingress and egress easement exists. Oftentimes, these types of ingress and egress easements may have been existing and attached to the property a long time ago. Also, if someone sold off underground rights to your property for like oil or minerals, there may be easements attached to those rights as well. Your title attorney will be able to tell you exactly what types of easements exist on your property after the title search. Understanding any existing easements helps you understand who exactly has access to your property. The fourth question to ask is, what type of land are you buying? Is it wooded or is it pasture? Really, either one has its pros and cons and fits a specific need. Wooded land can provide privacy, can add natural beauty, and also can provide some potential value in the timber. However, if you want to build a farm and need pasture or want to clear a site for a house or other outbuildings, this can be a major expense to clear these sites. You may be able to recover some of the cost by selling the timber to a local timber company. Pasture, on the other hand, has already been cleared and is perfect for grazing animals or gardens or even building homes and outbuildings, but it may cost more per acre because of that. Choose the type of land that aligns with your values and your needs for what you want to do. You also want to consider the topography of the land, whether it's very hilly or flat or somewhat rolling. Elevation changes, the steepness of the slopes, valleys that have creeks running through them with potential flooding issues, these can all affect the value and can all determine what you can and can't do with the property. For instance, if it's very difficult to get to the top of the hill where you want to build your home, it may be impossible to get supplies up there to build, or maybe to build a driveway and access that area. And in general, a flat or gently rolling topography can give you more options when it comes to building and farming, while very steep slopes can provide hilltops with incredible views, but it may be less convenient to get to those areas. You'll also want to consider if the properties have water across them, how difficult is it to cross that water? In some cases, you may have to have the expense of building a bridge or some sort of crossing to get to the other side to where you want to build. The fifth question to answer revolves around utilities. Most rural properties have at least access to electricity, and some also may have access to city water and sewer. If your property doesn't have city water, you probably will have to take on the expense of digging and building a well. If it doesn't have city sewer, then you've got the expense of building out a septic system. And if you have to build a septic system, you may be subject to county and state approvals. It can be a daunting process depending on where you're doing it. If you don't have access to natural gas, you can get around that by having a propane tank installed and using propane instead of natural gas. And while most roads have power lines running along them, in very rural areas, occasionally you will find that those power lines stop in certain areas. And if you want to build where one of those power lines doesn't exist, you may have to work with the local utility to extend the line to in front of your house, and that can also involve some extra cost. And finally, know your property's existing infrastructure and make plans around that. For instance, on a rural property, it can save you a lot of money if a driveway or some type of road already exists. Clearing roads through woods and building out driveways can be a major expense for any property owner. Also, existing homes and outbuildings can be hugely advantageous when it comes out to the building cost of your property. Whether they are old farmhouses, barns, sheds, metal buildings, chicken houses, these can all save you a lot of money if they already exist and they're in good condition. For instance, if you plan on doing a little bit of farming or need some fencing, existing fencing can save you thousands of dollars. Building out a large tract property with 4-board horse fencing can be very expensive. Woven wire or barbed wire fences can be cheaper to build, but if your parcel is very large, can still add quite a bit of expense. So there's probably going to be many more questions you and your agent want to make sure get answered before you close on your property, but these 6 main questions can help you go a long way to seeing if this property is really exactly what you need and will work for you. And if it does and you end up purchasing it, congratulations. Like I said in the beginning, there's nothing like owning land of your own.